Discover the heartwarming moment a millionaire exposed his incredible need for a mother for his community. Jake stood at the entrance of the Liberty Springs Community Center, his palms clammy, heart racing. Hundreds of twinkling lights danced above, casting a warm glow on the assembled crowd. He had built a fortune from the ground up, each brick of his empire a testament to hard work and determination. Still, tonight he felt like a fragile house of cards. The town was buzzing about his charity gala, all aimed at empowering the families just like his own had been struggling, fighting for every meal. But deep within him, a hollow ache reminded him of the past. He longed to escape the mother he had pushed away. As people bustled around, laughing and mingling, Jake caught glimpses of families smiling, visions of the community he adored. But the smile on his face felt painted on, a mask that couldn't hide the wounds beneath. Memories flooded his mind. His mother, Mary, who tirelessly worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table, her tired eyes dimmed by worry. However, their relationship fractured during his turbulent teenage years, a storm of anger and resentment pushing them apart. Now, he felt the weight of their silence as he planned to uplift others, a cruel irony gnawing at him. Could he really help the town when he couldn't even mend things with her? He kept moving, making small talk with guests, but the whispers followed him. "Did you hear about Jake and his mom?" they murmured, eyes turning away with judgment. Each word felt like a hammer to his heart. Memories of all those nights he lashed out in fury surged back. How could he have been so cruel? Could his philanthropy be sincere when his past was so dark? With each laugh in the room, the tension in his chest tightened. What if they could only see the boy who hurt his mother, not the man trying to help? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the clock hands moved closer, he gathered the courage to invite Mary, hoping for a moment to bridge the chasm between them before the crowd. But when she walked through the doors, the air grew thick with tension. Her face, once soft and familiar, looked hardened by their years apart. When she saw him, it felt like a freezing gust of wind had swept through the gala, silencing the conversations as if the whole room held its breath. "Mom, I need you here tonight," Jake implored, heart in throat. But instead of stepping into his embrace, she just shook her head. "You think I can just forget?" she said, bitterness pouring from her lips. He could feel the eyes of the entire town on them, disbelief and judgment shimmering in the light. The past hung between them like a heavy fog, as painful truths spilled forth: class divides, betrayal, love lost. In that moment, Jake's frustration boiled over. This was it. This was the conversation that needed to happen. Yet, before he could gather his words, the silence swallowed them whole, leaving an aching question lingering in the air. Can they forgive each other and begin to heal, or would their past doom them both forever? Jake felt trapped, caught in a web of emotions that tugged at his heart. The festive atmosphere around him faded into a blur. The laughter of townsfolk turned to mere echoes, and each plate clink felt like an intrusion into this fragile moment. He needed to reach his mother, to crack through the hard shell she had built around her heart. But first, he needed to dig deep within himself. "Mom," he said again, his voice barely above a whisper. It felt as though the entire room had shifted its weight onto him, a collective anticipation hanging in the air. She didn't budge. Her eyes were stormy, betraying years of hurt and disappointment. I know I messed up. I was a kid. I was angry. But tonight is about helping people like us, people who've struggled." "That's easy for you to say," she shot back, her voice edged with pain. "You wear expensive suits now, Jake. Can you even remember what it was like to be hungry? To worry about tomorrow?" The bitterness wrapped around each word like a chokehold. The room felt smaller, their confrontation a spotlight drawing in curious glances from the crowd. Jake could feel heat rising on his cheeks, but he refused to back down. "I haven't forgotten. I promise you, Mom. That's why I'm doing this. I want a future for these kids, so they don't have to suffer as we did. He caught her gaze, desperately trying to convey everything that his heart felt: remorse, hope, and the wish to start anew. Mary's expression wavered for a moment, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through her tough exterior. It was as if for just a heartbeat, she was seeing her son again. The boy who had once curled up in her lap when nightmares visited. But what are you really trying to prove? She asked, tears welling in her eyes. Are you doing this for them, or for yourself? Jake stammered, the words stumbling over one another in his mind. What was he really trying to prove? The truth hit him: he didn't just want redemption for others, he sought it for himself as well. Both. And maybe for us, too. His voice cracked. The weight of their shared history bore down on him like a mountain, and he felt small all over again. The crowds around them began to murmur, some hushed conversations sprinkled with sympathetic glances, others laced with disdain for the public display. Yet Jake stood firm, letting the tide of emotion wash over him. Mom, let us not keep living in the past. There's so much we can do together. We could be a family again. A shift in the air, an almost imperceptible softening crossed Mary's features. There was an undeniable pull of love beneath the hurt. But her composure was still guarded as she considered his plea. Could she let go of years of bitterness? Could she trust him again? As silence settled like a blanket, Jake took a step closer, extending a hand toward her, an invitation to break the walls that surrounded them. Just give me a chance. Just one. In that moment, the lively gala faded away, leaving only the weight of their shared history and the flicker of hope. Would she take his hand? Would they begin the painful but necessary journey toward healing? Before Mary could respond, the buzz of the crowd suddenly turned electric, drawing their attention. A familiar face emerged from the entrance, changing everything for both of them. Jake squinted, heart racing once more. Was it really his younger sister, Sophie? Jake! Mom! She shouted, rushing toward them, urgency in her eyes. What news could she bring that would change the course of this fragile reconciliation? Sophie barreled through the crowd, her blonde hair bouncing with each hurried step. The chaos of the gala slipped away, leaving only the thudding of Jake's heart. Jake! Mom! She called, breathless, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and determination. The two adults turned, their moment hanging by a thread as Sophie reached them. What's wrong? Mary asked, instinctively shifting into protective mode. The tension in her face remained, but worry creased her brow. For a moment, all three stood frozen, the weight of anticipation thick in the air. I saw something, Sophie said, gasping for breath and clearly shaken. At the community center, there's a man. He's been asking around about us. Mary's face paled. What do you mean, asking around? Who? I don't know who he is. He just kept bringing up what happened to us, Mom. I overheard him. Sophie's voice trembled. He kept saying our names. I got scared. It felt like he knew things. A chill raced down Jake's spine. For years, they had avoided their past, worried about the shadows that loomed over their family. What did he want? He pressed. I don't know. I ran out before he could see me. But he looked serious, Jake. Like he was, searching for us. She turned to Mary, desperation in her eyes. I didn't know if I should say anything, but I thought you should know. Mary stepped back slightly, her defenses rising like a wall around her heart. Why would he be asking about us after all this time? An unspoken fear gripped the three of them, the silence stretching as each considered the implications. Jake felt a mix of urgency and dread. What had happened back then still haunted them, almost as if they were characters in their own unending story. Sophie cast a glance between her mother and brother, her expression earnest. I think it's important that we stick together, whatever this is about. Mary, looking more fragile than ever, caught Jake's eyes. In that moment, their shared history mingled with uncertainty as a roadblock melted away with the potential for something new. Together Jake whispered, the word hanging between them. Maybe this is a sign. Sophie suggested, optimism shining through her worry. A chance to face it all. But Jake felt torn. Was facing their past something they wanted right now? Or would it just push them further apart? For so long, he'd yearned for a connection with his mom, and now this shadow hung overhead threatening their fragile progress. Can we just breathe, just for a second? Jake sighed, meeting Sophie's hopeful gaze. What if this man could help or hurt us? Mary's expression shifted as she looked at her daughter. We can't ignore it, but we also can't rush into anything. Just then, the music swelled, the laughter around them resumed too loudly, as if mocking the intensity of their conversation. They stood, a tight knot on the fringes of the gala, grappling with the reality of their past edging closer. Then Jake, pushing past his fears, made a decision. Let us find out who he is. Together. Hope twined with anxiety in his heart as he suggested their next step. They would confront the past, but would it lead to healing or heartbreak? As they exchanged determined glances, a new tension coursed through the air, the potential of unanswered questions demanding their attention. The night felt heavier now, the lively atmosphere laced with unease, and in the distance, whispers of what could be were just beginning to rise. What if that man knew something that could shatter their family anew? The gala buzzed around them, a stark contrast to the storm brewing in their hearts. Jake's mind raced, the uncertainty gnawing at him. He looked at Sophie, her youthful spirit twisted with fear, and then at Mary, who wore an expression of betrayal beneath her mask of calm. What if this man is a journalist or someone trying to exploit what happened? Mary's voice trembled, echoing every fear Jake had been trying to suppress. But what if he really knows nothing? Just someone curious, wanting the history of our family? Sophie countered. She clutched her mother's arm, her own tension spilling over into urgency. We have a right to know. Jake wanted to agree, to lean into Sophie's optimism, but doubt clouded his thoughts. They had crafted a fragile peace after years of silence, and now shadows were creeping in like unwelcome ghosts from a past they vowed to leave behind. He rubbed the back of his neck, a nervous habit that had resurfaced in stressful moments. Let us think this through, he suggested, trying to keep his voice steady. What do we know about this guy? Did you hear any details, Soph? Sophie shook her head, frustration etched on her face. Just that he kept mentioning our past, saying he was searching for something. She fell silent, her bright spirit dimming as doubt flickered in her eyes. Mary stepped forward, her protective instincts urging her onward. I don't want anything to jeopardize us again. We've come so far. We need to talk to him together, understand why he's looking for us. Together, Jake echoed, grounding himself in his commitment to protect his sister and mother. As they navigated back toward the dance floor, their steps fell in sync, headed not just toward the embrace of familiar laughter, but toward danger they felt brewing in the shadows. Few noticed the trio's tense whispers. Laughter dripped from the chandelier, sparkling down like confetti over everyone else. It felt surreal, the contrast of joy and anxiety. Then Sophie caught sight of the man from the community center across the room, a figure dark against the backdrop of the lively gala. He was tall, with deep-set eyes that seemed to pierce through the crowd. Her heart raced as she pointed him out to Jake and Mary. There. That's him. She whispered, and the freezing weight of that statement silenced them. Jake squinted, his heart pounding in his chest. A raging current surged through him. He had been fearful, anxious about facing whatever truths awaited them, but now it was as if all of that paled in comparison to the reality before them, a living specter from their past standing just a short distance away. Should we approach him? Jake asked, his throat dry. Adrenaline coursed through him, each pulse intensified the gravity of the situation. He felt Sophie's grip tighten around his arm, drawing strength from him, while Mary's breath came in hesitant intervals. No, Mary said, shaking her head slowly. Let us not rush into this. We need a plan. But Jake realized the time for planning was short. The man was moving through the throng, heading toward them, his expression purposeful. As he drew close, he didn't seem like a ghost from their past but rather an echo of their future reconciliation or revival of hurt. The music faded as the faces in the crowd blurred. It was only the three of them and this man, who held answers they desperately needed. "Are you Jake?" he asked, his voice a low whisper that vibrated with a sense of expectation. Jake's heart thrummed in his ears. This was it. The moment their lives could change forever. Sophie squeezed his arm tighter, and Mary exuded a mix of fear and resolve. In that breathless moment, he felt the weight of countless memories pressing down, aching for release. What would come next? Would the truth crack their fragile resolve or bind them even tighter? The possibilities hung in the air like a tension as thick as the night. The man's gaze flickered to Sophie and Mary before settling back on Jake, leaving him speechless and teetering on the edge of hope and despair. "Jake, we need to talk." More questions loomed, shrouded in fear and uncertainty. What truths had he come to unveil? Jake felt the ground shift beneath his feet. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice barely higher than a whisper, tinged with confusion and urgency. The man took a step closer, his eyes scanning the trio with an intensity that made Jake want to shrink away. "I've been looking for you, for your family. For answers." Sophie's grip on Jake's arm tightened even more, a mix of excitement and anxiety swirling in her expression. Mary's protective side flared. She stepped slightly forward, blocking Jake and Sophie as if to shield them from the man's penetrating gaze. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice steady, but her eyes betrayed her unease. "I'm just someone who was affected by what happened long ago," he replied, a hint of vulnerability breaking through his serious demeanor. "My name is Adam. I know about your father." The mention of their father sent a jolt through each of them. Memories, unanswered questions, and unhealed wounds swirled in the air around them. Jake's heart raced. "What do you know?" he asked, trying to keep the tremor from his voice. Adam hesitated, glancing around to see if anyone had noticed the charged conversation unfolding. "I've gathered pieces of your father's story, stories that were lost, buried under shame and silence. But they need to be told." Sophie's eyes widened, a spark of hope flaring instantly. "What do you mean? Why do you want to tell us this now?" "Because I think you deserve to know the truth," Adam said, his voice low. "And because I need your help." "Help? With what?" Jake asked, confusion mingling with caution. "I'm working on something that could uncover the past, provide healing for many families affected by the fallout of that time. But I can't do it alone. I need you, I need your family's story," Adam explained, vulnerability breaking through his resolve. Mary shook her head slowly, her protective shield still strong. "You can't just expect us to open up. If you want to share stories of pain and loss, you have to show us you're trustworthy." "I understand," Adam replied, his expression earnest. "But I promise, I'm not trying to exploit you, I'm trying to bring closure. For your sake. For mine." Jake's heart raced. He could feel the weight of their family's history pressing down, but also an undeniable pull and urge to uncover forgotten truths. "What do you know?" Jake pressed again, urgency lining his voice. "What happened to him?" Adam hesitated, the moment stretching painfully. "It's complex. Your father, he had secrets. Secrets that could change how you see him. And maybe, just maybe, change how you see yourselves as well." Every word hung heavy in the air. The thought of their father's secrets unveiled felt like standing on a precipice, both terrifying and thrilling. Jake felt Sophie's hand tremble on his arm, her youthful innocence at risk for truth. Could they handle whatever came next? "Why do we matter so much to this?" Mary asked firmly, her resolve not diminishing but shifting into protective curiosity. Adam took a deep breath. "Because I need your family to confront what was left unsaid. It's connected to the larger story, a story that many families have yet to hear. It needs to start with you." Jake exchanged glances with Sophie and Mary, realizing they stood at a crossroads, a moment where the past began to intertwine dangerously with their present. "Let us step outside," he said, a newfound determination settling over him. If we do this, we do it on our terms. As they moved toward the quieter terrace outside, the distant music faded into the background, leaving them in a cocoon of uncertain expectations. Sophie's breath fluttered beside him, a mix of dread and excitement. What if this changes everything? That's exactly what I'm afraid of, Jake confessed, his heart pounding as they stepped into the night. What awaited them, or worse, what truths they may uncover could shake the very foundation of their fragile family. But in the dark, under the starlit sky, they felt the weight of secrets waiting to be lifted. As they prepared to uncover the past, they had no idea just how intertwined their fates would become. And what it would mean for all of them. Jake, what are we getting into? Mary asked, her voice strained with the knowledge that once they stepped further into this conversation, there would be no turning back, and that was when Jake knew. The answers they sought might burn brightly, but could also cast heavy shadows. What secrets awaited them? As they stepped onto the terrace, the night wrapped around them like a thick blanket, dimly lit by the distant glow of streetlights. The music from the party was a mere hum now, leaving a tense silence in its wake. Jake looked at Adam, who remained steady and calm, his eyes reflecting an understanding that seemed to pierce through the tension. "Tell us everything," Jake finally said, his voice a mix of pain and anticipation. "What have you learned?" Adam took a deep breath, searching for the right words. "Your father, he was a complicated man. He carried burdens that didn't belong just to him. I've spent years listening to whispers, piecing together fragments that felt incomplete. It all ties together stories of loss, struggles, and choices he made, choices he believed were for the best." Sophie shifted closer to Jake, her eyes wide with worry. "Was he a bad person?" "No," Adam replied immediately, his voice firm. "He loved you both more than you'll ever know. But there were choices he thought necessary that put him at odds with himself. It broke him in ways that he could never truly heal." Mary frowned, her protective instincts surfacing once again. "And what does this have to do with us? Why come now? What do you want from us?" Adam glanced up at the stars for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "I need you to share your side, the memories you have. It can piece together the narrative. It can help others who suffered in silence. What if we don't want to talk about it?" Mary challenged, a fire igniting in her chest as the weight of old wounds began to stir. Adam nodded slowly. "I respect that. You don't have to. But I believe that the truth can bring healing, even if it's painful to confront. Your father was not just a victim of his choices, he was also a victim of circumstance." Jake felt his heart tighten at the thought of his father. He had loved him fiercely but hadn't he understood the man behind the shield of parenthood. What kind of circumstances? Adam looked directly at Jake, his gaze unwavering. He had a past that haunted him. A past filled with regret. He struggled with things beyond his control, financial troubles, family issues that were never resolved. But there was something else he sought, something more, something that always felt out of reach. What was it? Sophie asked, her curiosity bubbling up despite the heaviness of the moment. "Forgiveness," Adam replied, and a deep silence fell between them. Forgiveness from himself. Forgiveness from those he hurt. The weight of those words hung in the air, and Jake felt the urge to cry rise within him. It would be so easy to dismiss everything, to turn back and pretend they hadn't heard. But a flicker of understanding formed in his mind, a chance to finally see his father as a man, rather than just a figure set on a pedestal. "Tell us what we can do," he finally said, feeling the heat of determination rise. "If sharing can bring healing, then we'll share." Adam's eyes lit up with gratitude, and for the first time, he seemed less like a stranger and more like a guide. But even as relief washed over him, another question loomed large. "What if this doesn't change anything?" Sophie asked softly, her voice trembling. "Then at least you'll understand why he was the way he was," Adam answered gently. Understanding can sometimes be the first step towards healing. As they stood together, under the vast sky, the universe seemed to watch in anticipation. Jake squeezed Sophie's hand, feeling her fear mingle with a budding hope. Could they really handle what lay ahead? Would discovering the truth make their family whole, or fracture it further? And just as Jake was about to speak again, a sudden gust of wind swept through, carrying leaves and whispers like forgotten secrets. It rustled the silence with a reminder of how close they were to the buried truths. "Maybe we should start with a memory," Jake suggested, his voice trembling slightly. "A good one. One we can find comfort in." He looked at Sophie and Mary, both of them nodding, though the worry still etched on their faces. As he began to share, a new sense of anticipation flickered in the air, and the first cracks in their past began to reveal the light within. What would they uncover next? Jake took a deep breath, his mind swirling with memories. There were so many feelings tied to his father, piled deep under the weight of what they were learning. "There was this one summer," he began, his voice shaky but determined. "I was about 10, I think. Dad took us to the lake for a whole week. Just the three of us, me, Sophie, and him. It was our first real family adventure. I remember the sky was clear, and the water sparkled like diamonds." Sophie leaned closer, her eyes wide, pulling strength from her brother's words. "I remember," she exclaimed, nudging Jake as if to keep the memory flowing. Mary watched them, a mixture of nostalgia and sadness in her gaze. She wanted to hold on to this moment the way they were sharing something special and yet lost. "We spent days floating on rafts and building the craziest sandcastles," Jake continued, a small smile breaking through the weight of the evening. "One evening, Dad decided to show us how to fish. He was awful at it, but he made it fun, you know. He had this way of turning everything into a game. What about that time he got that big fish in his line but ended up losing it?" Sophie laughed, her voice lighter now. "He yelled like he had caught a whale." "Yes." Jake chuckled, the sound easing the tightness in his chest. "You'd think he'd hooked a great white shark. I can still hear him yelling, 'Hold on. I've got a whopper.'" They all laughed, the sound filling the night like a welcome breeze. It felt good, almost cleansing, to share these memories that had been buried so deep. Jake felt his heart lift a little. They were finding a thread to pull on. "But, you know, underneath all that fun," he said, his tone shifting, "there was something else. I didn't realize it then, but I think he was trying to show us how to be happy. He was always hiding his struggles behind those moments." The weight of Jake's reflection hung over them again. They shared a silence, rich with understanding but also laced with a longing for something more, a past that felt almost tangible, hovering just out of reach. Mary broke the quietness. "He was a good father, wasn't he?" Her voice was small, like she was trying to convince herself. "Always trying to be strong for us." "Yes," Jake said, the conviction growing in him. "He was. But he dealt with so much alone. He wanted to share more, to peel back the layers they were just beginning to uncover. He tried to be perfect, but nobody is." Sophie's voice trembled as she spoke again. "What do you think we should do with this? With all of it?" Jake looked at Adam, who had been quietly observing, nodding as if encouraging their revelations. "We can honor him by sharing these stories, right? By showing the world that he wasn't just a mystery or the mistakes we've heard about." Mary nodded in agreement. "It feels like he's waiting for us to take this step. That he's whispering to us to be brave." Jake felt a swell of emotion. They were at a turning point, and the weight of their memories started to give way to something profound: hope. They were finally confronting the man behind the mistakes and embracing their father's complexity. As the night deepened, a new light shone, a tentative hope, flickering through the cracks of their shared history. Jake wondered what further truths would emerge from this journey. Would they find healing or more questions? "Maybe it's time for us to reach out and learn about those other memories," he proposed, feeling both eager and anxious. "We have to dig deeper. We need to piece together all of these fragments." At that moment, a cold breeze rustled around them again, whispering of the uncertainties yet to come. Would they be prepared for the truth that lay ahead, the burdens still carried and the joys to be reclaimed? As they gathered their feelings, one question hovered there, waiting for words. Jake took a deep breath and asked, "What if we found more than just memories? What if we found understanding?" Jake stood there, the weight of his father's legacy pressing down like a heavy coat, but now it seemed the fabric was starting to loosen, thread by thread. The air buzzed with possibilities, flickering memories igniting hope. He shifted his thoughts away from the past and looked at Sophie, whose eyes mirrored his own uncertainty, and then at Mary, whose features were softened by reflection. "Where do we start?" Sophie asked, her voice steady but laced with anticipation. Mary took a moment to consider, glancing at Adam, who had been their steadfast ally through this emotional whirlwind. "I think there was a box in the attic," Mary finally said, the memories flooding back. "Dad used to keep things up there, old photos, letters, maybe he wrote something we don't know about." "Let us go get it," Jake declared, feeling a rush of adrenaline course through him. He needed to uncover the hidden parts of his father, to give shape to the man behind the laughter and the missed chances. They clambered down the staircase, the footprints echoing against the wooden steps, as if they were marching toward a truth waiting to be exposed. In the dim light of the attic, surrounded by shadows and dust motes dancing in the beams, Jake felt both excited and terrified. What would they find? Would it reveal more of his father's struggles, or perhaps more of the love hidden in between the lines? As they rummaged through the old boxes, the air grew thick with the scent of aged paper and nostalgia. Each item they pulled out felt like a fragment from another life: a baseball glove, a frayed shirt, a faded birthday card that spoke of simpler times. Sophie held up an old stuffed bear, its fur matted, and smiled faintly. "He kept this?" "I thought it was lost. Seems like he held on to more than we realized," Jake said, a hint of warmth creeping into his tone. Eventually, they uncovered a weathered cardboard box tucked behind a stack of musty magazines. Jake opened it cautiously, revealing a treasure trove of memories: photos of family vacations, birthday celebrations, and even letters. Handwritten pages that seemed to pulse with his father's essence, waiting to be read. "Here," Jake said, pulling out a folded letter. He carefully opened it, his heart racing as he started to read aloud. "Dear Sophie," and Jake, his voice wavered, emotions weaving through his words like a melody. It was a heartfelt apology, a confession of doubts, of dreams deferred, and a yearning for connection. As he continued to read, Sophie leaned closer, tears glimmering in her eyes. "He was trying to tell us, he wanted us to understand him," she whispered, her voice trembling with the weight of realization. "More than just stories," Jake murmured, the impact of the moment hitting him hard. They had been searching for clarity, but now they were touching the very heart of their father. Mary reached out and touched Jake's shoulder, her eyes shimmering. "He wanted us to see the love beneath his struggles," she said softly. For the first time, the splintered pieces began to fit together, creating a mosaic of understanding that spoke of pain but also hope. Jake felt a shift inside, a light breaking through the heavy clouds that had settled over their family for so long. With the letter in hand, they sat huddled together, surrounded by the remnants of their father's life, feeling vibrantly connected yet contemplative. Each word brought forth another question. What did it mean for them now? How would this newfound understanding change their lives? Just as the warmth of connection began to weave itself around them, the attic door creaked open, startling them. Adam stood silhouetted against the light, his face bathed in uncertainty. "What is going on? What did you find?" he asked, leaning into the moment with curiosity. Jake exchanged glances with Sophie and Mary, the love for their father shining brightly through the shadow of unanswered questions. "More than we ever imagined," Jake replied, his voice resolute. They were braced for the next part of their journey, ready to embrace the truth, but deep down, Jake couldn't shake a lingering thought: what other revelations awaited them, hidden in the depths of their father's past. Adam stepped fully into the attic, his curiosity palpable as he took in the scene: three siblings huddled with a cardboard box of memories. His heart ached for them. He could see the transformation in their faces, a blend of sorrow and newfound hope. "What's that you're reading?" he asked, trying to break the silence that hung thick with emotion. Jake looked at Adam, reluctant to break the spell of the moment. "It's a letter from Dad. He's opening up about things we never talked about." Sophie leaned in closer, eager to share this emotional charge. "He apologized for not being there for us, for anything that hurt us. It's like he finally wants us to understand him." Adam leaned closer, pressing his hand against the wall to steady himself. A mix of admiration for their father and sorrow for the loss washed over him. He wanted to be better for you guys. He really tried. As Jake continued to read, the room seemingly contracted, drawing them into their father's world, a place where regret mingled with affection. There it was, a raw honesty that they had yearned for yet never received directly. The stories of late nights spent worrying, the whispers of dreams shattered by life's relentless tides, each line brought them closer, uncovering both faults and tenderness. When Jake finished reading, he let the letter fall into his lap, unable to meet anyone's gaze. He felt his heart race, thoughts racing even faster. How do we face this? It's like we're learning a whole new side of who he was. Sophie wiped a tear from her cheek. We start by realizing he was still our dad, even with all his flaws. This doesn't change our love. It's part of who he was. Mary nodded, her heart swelling with a bittersweet sense of clarity. We're not alone in this. He loved us in the ways he could, even if it wasn't always enough. Just then, from the far corner of the attic, a glint of something silver caught Jake's eye. He stood up, curiosity getting the best of him. Pushing aside the remnants of memories, he approached a small, dust-covered box. It was old and worn, the latch slightly rusty. Hey, what's this? Jake called over his shoulder. The others gathered, the weight of the moment still clinging to them, but now their eyes sparkled with intrigue. As Jake opened the box, the lid creaked ominously. Inside lay a collection of journals, each one dated. Adam's breath hitched. Are those Dad's journals? Looks like it, Jake replied, his fingers trembling slightly. What if there's more in here? More than the letters? Do we dare to look? Sophie asked, a mixture of fear and excitement in her tone. Jake exchanged looks with Mary and Adam, feeling the pull of adventure and uncertainty. We should, he decided, the resolve in his voice strong. This could be the key to everything. We cannot let fear hold us back now. As they all gathered around, ready to explore the depths of their father's mind and heart, the air crackled with anticipation. What would these pages reveal? How would they change their perceptions? Before they dove into the journals, Jake felt the need to remember. Whatever we find, let us promise to support each other. No matter how hard it gets. They all nodded, sealing their unspoken pact in the dim light of the attic, united by the potential for deeper understanding. As the first journal creaked open, Jake held his breath. What secrets lay hidden within those pages? What truths would it unfold about their father, and ultimately, themselves? The walls of the attic embraced them, yet outside the world buzzed with normalcy, unaware of the life-altering revelations about to unfurl within. Would they be shattered or restored by the truth? With hearts racing, they turned the first page, ready to unlock the past. The atmosphere around the attic crackled with anticipation as Jake leaned closer, the flickering light from the dusty window casting shadows over their faces. With a trembling hand, he opened the first page. It felt like unearthing a treasure that had long been buried, each word weighted with potential. August 3, 1997, he read aloud, the ink faded but legible. Today, Sophie caught a frog near the lake. She was so proud, holding it like a trophy. It reminded me of my childhood. Jake paused, swallowed hard. He was writing about us. About family. Mary's eyes filled with tears. He was trying to capture moments, like he was afraid of forgetting. Jake continued, the pages revealing snippets of conversations, snapshots of emotions. I worry about my kids. I want to give them the life I never had, he read, his voice cracking with each syllable. I'm scared of failing them. Sophie leaned in, a rush of warmth flooding her heart. He wanted us to feel secure. To be happy, into the future. Another page spoke of struggles, a fight against darkness that loomed over him. Sometimes, I wake up and feel like a ghost, drifting. I want to break the cycle of pain but don't know how. Each passage echoed the complexities they all carried, a bond of shared burdens that felt lighter with each revelation. Dad wasn't just our father, he was a man wrestling with demons, Jake said softly. He glanced at Mary and Sophie. He didn't just want us to see the best of him. He wanted us to see all of him so we wouldn't feel alone in our battles. Mary wiped her tears, newfound strength rising within her. What if this is more than just understanding? She pondered, her voice steadier now. What if we can use these words to communicate with others who felt lost? Jake nodded, his heart swelling with conviction. This can be a way to reach out, to dismantle the silence that binds us all. We have to help others find their voice, just like we're trying to find ours. As they moved through the pages, each filled with the heartbeat of their father, a sense of freedom washed over them. They discovered moments of tenderness, laughter, and regret intertwined like a tapestry, unraveling truths that had been buried for years. "Look at this!" Sophie exclaimed, her voice ringing in the stillness. She held up a photograph that had fallen from the journal, an image of their family together at the lake, sunlight streaming down, smiles wide and genuine. It captured a moment frozen in time, one filled with pure joy. "We looked so happy." Maybe he was just lost in how to hold on to those moments. Mary leaned over to examine the photograph, and a smile spread across her face, layered with affection. This was real happiness. We were together, untouched by all the chaos around us. With each journal entry, they peeled back layers of their father's existence, revealing not just his flaws but his dreams, too. The understanding that emerged transformed their pain into resolve. They were ready to confront the ghosts of the past, emerging stronger, more united, emboldened. Jake looked at Adam, who had quietly been observing, moved by their journey. "We need to share these stories, not to expose our father but to inspire healing in others." Adam nodded with a sense of purpose. "Your father's voice, his experiences, they matter. They could help many others who feel trapped in silence, just as you have." Together, they crafted a plan. With Adam's assistance, they would host community events, sharing their father's letters alongside their own stories, creating a space for discussions about pain, healing, and connection. As they descended the stairs from the attic, the transformations rippled through their hearts. They felt lighter, wrapped in a new understanding of who they were. Jake looked at his family, his heart pulsing with gratitude. "We're not just carrying his story now, we're rewriting it, breathing life into it. We'll shine a light on the shadows, together." With each step back into the world, the air felt fresh with promise. The laughter and music of the gala resumed, now harmonious with their newfound hope. As they blended back into the crowd, Jake caught an encouraging smile from Sophie and a knowing glance from Mary. This was just the start. They had uncovered pieces of their father's heart, and now it was time to share that heart with others. In that moment, Jake realized they would no longer live under the weight of their past. Instead, they would evolve, carrying their father's legacy not as a burden but as a compass guiding them toward compassion and connection. As they moved forward into an uncertain future, standing side by side, they felt a unified resolve. Together, they could transform not only their own lives but the lives of others searching for understanding. And outside, under the vast sky, each star seemed to twinkle just for them, a promise of hope, a whisper of possibility, a new beginning. Now, it's your turn to take action. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next incredible stories that can transform lives just like this one. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, help others discover these uplifting tales, and show your support. Comment below about your reactions and feelings regarding the ending. We want to hear your thoughts. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who might need this kind of inspiration in their lives. Your support means everything.